Here in France, a panel of 150 members of the French public have begun discussing whether or not to adopt legislation that would legalise assisted dying. Now, this is in line with French President Emmanuel Macron's wish to debate this deeply divisive issue. Participants are going to consider whether to change the current law, which bans euthanasia and medically assisted suicide, but does allow terminally ill patients to refuse treatment and receive deep and continuous sedation until death. A recent poll showing that 78% of French people are in favour of establishing a right to die. In the Netherlands, euthanasia has been legalised for some 20 years. Let's cross now to speak to our correspondent in Amsterdam, Fernande van Tets. Fernande, just take me through, because it's been 20 years since that law came into effect. Just how strict is it?
Yes, Annette. I mean, of course, this was a world first when this was legalised back in 2002. It's pretty strict. I mean, it's really only meant for people who don't see an end to their suffering, people who are terminally ill, and for who there are no alternatives. It also really squarely places the physician in charge. So there's 2 doctors that need to sign off on anyone who wishes to use euthanasia. In the vast majority, it's people's own GP. They want to keep it in your local sphere, but then a second doctor needs to sign off on it as well. And then they'll admit a sedative, or by IV or by a drink. And then afterwards, 1 of 5 review boards in the country will look at what the GP has done. Now, usually that goes well. In the past 20 years, only 1 GP has actually been prosecuted. But the rules have been pretty strict from the beginning.
Fernande, how much has the law changed over time? And I also want to ask you, how much has or have public attitudes changed in the same period?
Well, and when it started, only about 2,000 people a year used this, and that has quadrupled to 7,800 people in 2021. So initially it was really only those terminally ill patients, and it was really quite expanded over the past decade or so. The vast majority of people who use it today, they are 60, they are usually suffering from things like cancer or terminally ill, but you can use this law if you are also if you're suffering, and that can mean that you have a handicap, that you have a chronic illness. It's actually even now also been expanded to psychiatric problems. So it has expanded a lot, and that of course has reflected public attitudes changing as well. Now, there is some debate about whether that is a slippery slope. There have been debates when there have been cases, for example, about an alcoholic using it. Is it not the need to address problems rather than give people this only way out? But abuse has been pretty limited. And actually, there's even a draft law at the moment to expand the right to end life to anyone over 75 years old without a doctor. Now, that is a concept law which was admitted by one of the parties in government today, the D66 party, the highest court here in the Netherlands. They said that it goes too far. They're worried that there are not enough checks, and they were pretty brutal in a review earlier this year. However, the coalition has agreed that everyone can vote their conscience if this law would ever come in front of Parliament, but that still seems to be a bridge too far. So euthanasia still, if you are suffering unbearably, rather than just for everyone here.